Hello future tech leaders, I am Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. A cloud foundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I'm so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds.
Today we will start with some of the back-end things. We will start with OSGi configuration. Now, what is the purpose of OSGi configuration? We will understand it with the help of a net. Consider you have some API like third party which you wanted to connect to. Now that third party has some URL and some username and password. Now what would be the best? Now that the URL and use those credentials are different for lower environment to the broad environment. Now what do you think is the best place to keep those URL and the credentials? Would you hard code that in your code base, in your Java file, or would you thought of placing those inside some configuration file? Configuration file. AEM provides OSGi configuration which helps us to keep all these configurable things or configurable values as part of OSGi configuration. And the best part of this is one thing is that you do not have to hard put in your code. And the second thing is that you can change the value of these at any point of time. Consider you have the OSGi configuration and there's a username password and somehow you mistakenly inputted the wrong password. Now your application is live. Application is up and running. But in that application that you are trying to connect to the third party which makes the use of these credentials, you are not able to connect because the password is incorrect. You don't have to worry because this username and password is a part of OSGi configuration. You can make the change in those password field at any point of time without even restarting your server, without even making any change in the server. You can easily make the changes inside the OSGi configuration and the changes will be immediately picked up by your code. Let's understand it with the help of an example. Let's consider that as we just discussed, let's consider that there is some username and password and some old. Now first is that we have to create a OSGi configuration gamma of pi. Here, what I did is just now, I created a sample configuration and this is not a class, but this is an add rate interface. We use that interface over here and here we have to make the use of this annotation. That is at the rate object class definition. By using this object class definition, it basically makes this class an OSGi configuration class. And here we give it a name that is sample configuration. You can give any name to your configuration. Now using this object class definition, the annotation we made this class and OSGi configuration. Now virtual properties will be dynamic or like whose value we can dynamically change at runtime are basically these are the attributes. You can call it as attributes or values of this configuration and you need to make the use of annotation that is at the rate attribute definite by using add rate attribute definition. These will become the configurable values that you can change on fly. The value can be changed on fly. I will tell you how and the time, like on runtime. You can change their values and our code will start picking up their value and will start behaving according to that anytime. You can change this and you do not need to restart your server to basically start reflecting the changes. Here we have to use the attribute definition and I gave this as the like display name. This is my display name for this property or for this attribute and I said that the default value in case if nothing has been inputted by the authors or the developers, then this will be the default value that will be used for this configurable property. Same way I use the URL endpoint, URL username, URL password and some URL key. And now what I will do is I can go to my service like sample service. Now I created this configuration, but I have to use the values of this configuration like this is my value of this is an attribute. I have to use the value of this configuration somewhere in the code. Inside the service to refer. Firstly, to refer that OSGi configuration which we created by using this object class definition. What annotation will be used is at the red designate, and here we will say OCD because if you can see it is object OCD object class definition. OCT is equal to the name of your configuration. That is sample configuration.class. By this way, what we said is now, our service is now enabled to refer our configuration, that is sample configuration. This sample configuration now in the init method. Let's use the init method and let's say we plan to receive the configuration over here and let's make a private variable by weight. What is the name of this sample configuration? And config sample config now here. Whatever it is inside the init method. I received the object of sample configuration in an instance variable. Now I have received this. Now the final thing, what I want is I create a method public string get all details. And here what I will do is, let me write a return statement or let me create a string variable. All is equal to. Now I have this sample config. What is here? You can see all the manual password. I made these 4 fields configurable as part of my sample OSGi configuration. Now I will go over here and I will say I have to use URL endpoint and then let's put some space and sample.URL username. Here let me say sample URL details are as what I did is here I created this OSGi configuration with all the attributes and I said that the default values of these attributes or this configuration values are these in case if nothing is being inputted. What I used is I used the add rate object class recognition and inside my surveys to refer the survey, to refer the OSGi configuration. What I use is at the rate as it may. Authored is equal to the name of the configuration. Now I received the object of this inside an instance variable of my OSGi configuration, and then I created a simple method and received or created a simple string out of the values of the OSGi configuration. And I said return is the all. I return the all over here. Whatever the string I created, and this string is what I created by using the OSGi configuration values. Now this is my service. Let's receive. Let's call this method inside my sample model. Here let me write public string getAll. And here my this is sample service dot getAll details. And let me turn it to. Let me return it over here. And in the sample word, let's go inside the sample word, and here let me say all detail my model dot all. Because what is the method I create? It gets. You are also similar. To simplify you, let me just build this here. In the HTML file, we are referring to the model path. Right, yes, every time the HTML is loading, the one object is created. Or every time that the HTML is loading, one object is created. For the sling model will be loaded. The object for sling model will be created, but for service only a single object will be created. Because see, there is a reason, because in dialog authors can make a change at any point in time. In case the dialog can be changed, values of dialog can be changed anytime. Of course, your back-end system, which is a sling model, should also behave accordingly, should be capable of receiving, and your surveys are nothing classes, which is receiving the input and working on the base of it. Let's just wait for it to completely build, and we will see that the sample configuration that created by this name will be available as part of our OSGi configuration. Now, how do you see your OSGi configuration? Now this, let me first here, if you go inside the system console config manager, here all the configurations are being stored, which is our OSGi configuration. Once this code will get deployed, you will also see the sample configuration. Why I am calling it sample configuration? because I named my configuration as sample configuration. This configuration will also be available along with the other configuration, basically other configuration. All the Adobe out-of-box code using the configuration are the available one along with this one. This is what we have created, plus there will be a lot of other configurations which will be Adobe's out-of-box provided. Our code is still building, but here you can see these are all the out-of-box Adobe's configuration. See, we have our code and we made our code configurable by using OSGi configuration. The same way, Adobe also makes a lot of configuration. Those configuration are like over here. Here you can see like this is one configuration. If I opened it, it says some AP endpoint all time. Also, can you see these endpoints? Of course you cannot, or it's you can, but you should not hard code these as part of your. Of course, this is not a good. That is why we make them as configurable. I tell you one of the out-of-box configuration that is a partial link resource on your factory. If you remember in the last session, we discussed that in case if you overlay any file from libs to apps, then the one inside apps will start getting preference because our code is not getting preference. Basically, it needs the file or tries to search any file inside the apps, ret and then libs, ret. Remember this concept. Why is it that first the apps get preference and then libs? Basically, internally, Adobe has made a configuration for this, and this is this resource or your factory configuration. If I open this, here you can see the source search path, the list of absolute path prefix applied to find the resource whose path is just specified with the relative path, the default values. Here it says the sequence in which you will mention the path. In that sequence, our execution will tries to search the files in the in that hierarchy or in that sequence. Firstly, it search inside the apps and then inside the libs. This is an out-of-box OSGi configuration provided which takes care of this. Now our code has been deployed. Let me just refresh my OSGi configuration. Will also open my page. My page is, yes, let's open the test page. And this is my OSGi configuration. Now, if I search sample there, you can see the sample configuration, the one that we created over here and what all attributes are. The first one is all endpoint. Second is all username. The third is all password and then all key with their default values. If I open this here, you can see the all and endpoint all username. This is password and this is why password is being shown like this because I said that this is a password field. The type is password. Now, if I open my component over here, all details are as, oh, my all details are not getting retrieved. Somewhere some issue is there in my code. Let me just get this and save it. My code is not able to read this or somewhere. There is some problem. Let me just check sample configuration. Let me just save this because I think we did not save it, and also let me just refresh it. You can see the sample L details are as Yahoo username. And the third one was thus the password, whose value did not came up because here the sample configuration, the default value was this one. If I can input over here like now inside the sample configuration. Now if the CM or the developers or the authors think, oh, this endpoint all is not correct, it should be Google. Similarly, the username should also be Google. Username and password should also be Google. If I will save this and if I will parallel at the same time, if I will refresh my page, it will start giving me updated values. All the updated things have started coming Google username. And the third one was Google. Like here, I have my password. I use the Google and my password. Let's use Google password and let me just save this immediately. You make your changes. Your changes are available as. See how easy is it to easily make changes inside the OSGi configuration, and that like you can change them on fly and those values start coming for your code will start respecting those updated value the time you make changes in that. Basically, with the help of OSGi, you do not have to restart your server making any code change. If in future the URL or the password of any of these things is changes, if you think there is some variable or some value whose value can change sometime in the future, best is to make it configurable as part of OSGi configuration. Any questions till now? We have the same thing like this in your code. You are using the same thing. In the configuration, there is a flag. That is something. If that thing is checked in the configuration, then in the code is checking that if that flag is coming as true, then it will show like some sort of list, for example. That's great. I think somehow like some configuration, and that's why right exactly. I'm going to tell about that only. I am going to tell about that only now. Till this point, we understood how you create configuration and how you refer or how you can make the changes in that on fly. Now another question that arises that should have arisen in our mind is that this username, this password and this append point. Now we have made this configurable. But what about if we have to make these values configurable as per our run mode? Like if we have an author or if we have a prod, the non-prod. I want a different value, and on lower, I want a different value. Of course, what you can do is every time you are on prod, every time after deployment, you can changes in your configuration to make those configuration as per prod, and similarly on lower. You can make You can go inside the system console config and change over there and to make the configuration as per lower environment. But that is of course not a good solution because this configuration should see. The problem with this would be that after first deployment, you made the changes inside the system console on both prod and lower. Now again, when the code will get deployed, the changes will get over it. The changes that you will do won't sustain thereafter. After you do a deploy, every time after deployment, you have to make the changes. That is of course not a good solution. The best is that you make these configuration value as part of your code base. But what if you want to make this configuration available or configuration value available as per? They have provided us with a module that is a content, not I content. It's a configure. Where is the where? Did I accidentally delete it? Looks like some issue has or it has been accidentally deleted. Oh man, I content is there but there is no a config. There needs to be e config folder. When the whole project it will be in the command or something. Or maybe while creating this project, maybe sometime during that we didn't realize, but that module was not created. Let me do one thing. Let me just copy it from the others one and we'll add this as a dependency in our parent work. If I go as at the teams, oh, that's changed. They also do not have it. I think, where else? Where else do we keep it? Not inside our dispatcher. It's it launch iApps. iApp structure no content. Oh, content, no my then it's a phone. Strange. There is no vconfig folder, neither is it inside. Now let's go inside our Cux. Let's see if it's over there. Let's duplicate this and go to Cux. It's over here, that's change. But why can't I see a thing? It should be a app, sir. Is it just? I just have some. Oh, it's over here. See, it's over here inside the apps. If you see. Oh, why did I got confused? Is because in one of the latest archive, what they have done is that these configure, you can see the config folders. These are the config folder where you can place your configuration as per run modes. I will tell you how. Like here, you can see always the folder name should be configured and there's a dot. Then after dot it should be the name of your run mode. Like if you remember, our run modes were of course author and publisher, but also our run mode custom run modes. For our author was broad and patchy, if you remember that correctly. Here, what we can do is like here, I can just copy this. Do I have any file? Is there any file in the over here? All have is, let me just copy this. And what I can do is, oh, how can I copy this? And over here I can paste it. And here, what were the run mode? Of course, author was one of the run mode. Then I have the prod and then I have patchy. After config, whatever is the name, whatever are the names separated by dots, will be your name of your run mode of that instance. Now, if I all, these are the name of your run mode, if you remember correctly. Do you remember? All these were the name of a run mode. Yes, if I remove any of the run mode, then it's still, this is a valid folder because also my name, my run mode name of my author instance is author and prod. But let's consider if I gave it a name config.author.prod. Like something like E. Now, E is not and run mode name. This will not be considered as a run mode folder. We need to give a proper name to our folder where we can sort our configuration. Here I gave a name as config.author.prod. Here, I could have also given as config.author.prod.patchy because patchy was also run mode, was also the name of our run mode. Now let me do this one thing. Let me save it like this and here you can see now. Now here I have two folders. One is config.author, the other is config.author.prod and then there is a config. Now if you back to your Pakistan, this page will not be for. Now let me firstly create a configuration. How will I create a configuration for my sample configuration? What was the name of the service? The name of the service. It could be the name of the service. Using the name of the service, your configuration will be created. Here is the package. Let me just copy this and let me paste it over here. Let me create a new file with name and then sample service.xml. Here we created an XML file whose name is the packet name dot file name of the service which is referring our configuration. Here's XML or basically your configuration file is created by the name of the service which is referring the question. Those run mode names we created inside the AEM instance write run modes. If you just show it to you again, let me just open it over here again. Here inside the startup, if you remember, I gave the run mode names Rod, Prachi, and of course, author is one of them. Yes, that's what I gave over here. Now I have this XML over here and I can place the same XML over here as well inside the config.author folder. Now consider this is also the same XML and this is also the XML. And if the service like my sample service which is referring my configuration, if that gets hit inside the author instance, then my both these folder resolves to my author instance because the run mode over here is author and the run mode over here is author.prod. Because author and of course prod both are the name and author of course is also the name. But which one is the best matching folder? The best matching folder is this one because this is the maximum number of names that matches your run modes. Yes, the XML or the configuration file below this will start getting preference. Now you will have the same configuration inside the config folder as well, but it doesn't matter. The best match one is this one. If this folder is not, would not have been there. This folder also would not have been there. Then in that case, this is the default folder which gets by default considered. Now if I place some configurations over here, like let me just pop it from here, why do we write it? Let me just place it over here and let's change it as per our configuration. What was our? The name of configuration. This configuration. The name is this URL endpoint. Let me use the name over here and let me put the value as training. Let's say training am training. Now the second one, username. And the username, what I will place it as anything like I'm username. And let's give it like the remote, the other. What is the remote is author fraud and this one is also author fraud. Let's use these two properties. And also let's use this one as well. Let's use three properties. Here we use the third one as well. And this is password. Author dot. Now, this is what configuration I created over here and the same configuration I create over here. And the values are only over here. Now you tell me if I will deploy the code, which values will be picked up and displayed in my code base, these values or these values. Of course, these values will not no longer be displayed because these were the default value and these will be used in case no configuration is present. But in our case, the configuration XMLs are present. The values from that will be picked. In case if no configuration folder is matching as per our mode, then by default the config folder will match. But conditionally, it should have the necessary XML of the configuration file. Now we know that this folder is also matching with our run mode and this is also matching. Which one will be considered? The first one, right? The one which matches more. The one which matches more. That will be considered if there is also a folder with the name config.author.prod.trachy, then that would be considered. That means on the basis of run mode, you can trigger that or you can use different configurations. In case, like if you have author on prod, you want some different credentials and on lower, you want some different credentials to be part of your configuration. You can make your configurations run more physics. This is config.authorprod. You can make config.publish. If you remember, it was some name location, the earlier name of publish. If you do not remember, let me just show it to you. Do you remember? That's inside the room. Here I could have created a folder as config.location, config.publish.location. Both the folder would have resolved in case of publisher. The code is getting deployed and after that we will see. What we did is we made these configurations run mode specific, that which value will be picked under which run mode or under which is test type or depending upon run mode. That we have created run mode specific. Let's just see if our code is. It's still deploying. Once it gets deployed, and also always remember the important thing which most of the developers tend to make mistake is the name of the configuration. File is always created on the basis of the name of the service which refers that configuration, not the configuration name. See our configuration. Name is sample configuration, but which service is referring that? By using that is the XML name that gets created. You should refer the service name, not the configuration. Why is it? Because multiple configuration or multiple service can refer your configuration. Now consider there is a service A and service B. Both need to refer this configuration now, but they need to have different values. That's why we create the configuration service-wise. Service A can have its own XML. Service B can have its own XML. And they can have different values in the XML, but ultimately they are having the same configuration. What my point? There can be like other services that's referring to this configuration, right? Exactly doing different things. Exactly now. If I go over here and refresh this, here you can see I'm training author prod. I'm username author word. I'm password author code. This one is getting done. And also, if you remember, like we changed our sample configuration to Google one. But now you can see after we deployed code, it got reverted back. Anytime you can make changes, but after deployment, those changes will be reverted. That is why you can make the changes on fly. But those changes should also be a part of committed in your code base. Because if you won't commit to your own code base and you will directly make those configuration changes over here, then the next time when the deployment will happen, it will be lost. Yes, this was the concept of OS configuration, of how you make the values configurable in your AMP. Just one more question. If you want to implement this concept of like this sample service XML file before this, we need to have the concept of run moding, right? Otherwise, there's no point. For OS computation to be like this, on the fly of variables, sorry, come again. I mean, like if we want to use this, yes, every like sample service XML files, how for this, I need to have like that run more things right in the startup, the one that you named. Yes, see, if you see it doesn't, it's even if you do not have the run mode, then also you have at least the config XML inside the config folder. By default, it will not work differently for run mode, but at least it will make your files configurable, or if it values configurable, it will make your values global. We just want to differentiate a run mode. Is it run mode on utter or is it like in the, for example, on the publish? On any basis, like whatever your run mode name is. According to that, you can create the folders. Because did I have this config.author And let me also think of creating an config.author.appzed. Here I am saying that there are two run modes for my instance. One is author and the other is appzed. But consider that the author instance does not have any run mode. Name appzed that folder. It doesn't mean that that folder will be resolved. But since you are giving an invalid this run mode name and one run mode name, author is correct but the other one is wrong. That folder would never be resolved because you gave it wrong run mode name that is not available in your code base or not in code, but your instance does not has that remote name. The best matching and all the bet all the one that matches that folder will become written with all the run mode names. Matches, sorry for that. Let me start with the other topics. That is logging me over and but all the different type of log files are there in here. How would you troubleshoot the problem if you get? How would you see what exceptions are coming? All these you will discuss now. Let's start with and let's see which all we can come complete. In if you go inside the cxfix start, I told you do it very carefully because there is a repository folder. All your tar files, basically all the repository data is being stored under this repository folder in the form of tar. Always use the cxfix start folder very carefully. Here, the important folder for us is this logs folder. This is pretty important folder. Pretty because all your local, everything that you do in your code base gets printed inside the logs file. Inside the log, if you see there are a lot of logs. Yes, there are a lot of log files, but over the main ones that we use are the ones that we will discuss now. The most important one that you would be using on regular basis and that you must also, right now, also must be using is this error.log. Any functionality? Do you do any page that you refresh any? Anything that you do get logged inside this error.log. This error tell you each and every information about what you have done or any functionality that fails. All your custom code, all that thing gets printed inside error.log. Here, if I open it, you can see all the information. What all is happening behind the scene or within gets printed inside the error.log. And also all your application related log, like when I talk about application loaded, it means that all yours, like you created a sample application, all the Java files would be printing some info, warning or error log. All those logs will be logged inside this error.log. Any issue that you get while executing any service, you don't know where it is failing. Just go inside error.log and try to find what error is your log printing. Whatever is it coming. All that will help you debug your application. All the application specific log gets printed inside error.log. We will discuss more about this error.log. But let's firstly understand the other thing, other type of logs as well. Error.log is of course the parent, like you can say. It contains the most important log. Every application, all the application that is running, all those logs get logged inside the error.log. All the application specific logs get logged inside. And finally, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.